Hello. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about subtraction today. Lots of you have submitted your first two subtraction assignments, and I was super duper impressed. I can see in the pictures and the videos and things that you guys send, I can see how much erasing has been done. I can see if there's been like little marks made for counting and things like that. And from what I've seen, you guys are getting a really good handle on your single digit subtraction, which is awesome. So we're going to move on today and this week to our double digit subtraction. Now, before you start to panic a little bit, it's a little bit of a different thing to wrap your mind around, but I'm very confident that the work we've been doing throughout this year with our dot collections and the work from Mrs. Lorway, that you guys are really, really ready and prepared for this. Parents, we're not talking about regrouping or carrying any kind of ones or borrowing or anything like that. So we don't need to worry about that. We're just talking solely about our first number being up to 20, so a double digit number, and then subtracting a single digit number, okay? We worked lots throughout January on our 10s and 1s, and these grade 2s are experts. They know that there are 10 ones in 110, and they know how to talk about 20 ones is the same thing as 2 10s and all of those kind of things. You can quiz them if you want, and that's going to help them so much when it comes to this kind of subtraction. Some of you have probably worked ahead in the book at this point, and that's totally fine as well. I just ask that you send me some kind of picture or video of the work just so that I can see it, because it makes me feel good to see how awesome they are. So for this week, there are a few pages that we're going to be working on, and like I said, I don't want you to panic because I'm going to give you the whole week to work on these going into our Easter, not Easter break, okay? So the first page that we're going to work on is this one here, and these are all out of your workbook. That's not additional things that I've uploaded. So thanks for your patience with that, but these are out of the workbook that I sent home. So we've got that page there, followed by this one here that says subtract. Okay, it is double-sided. And then this one here. Again, it's double-sided, ending with this one here. And on the back of this one is just some bonus kind of word problems, just for fun. All right, so just to review some of the strategies that we talked about using subtraction in the last video that I posted, because these kids have such a great foundation of number sense, they will be able to do a lot of this subtraction in their heads, which is really great. The repetition and the mental math is really what we're looking for going into grade 3. With that being said, some kids need to count, and that is okay. I'm a counter. It's been really hard for me to learn a lot of the different ways that Mrs. Lorway teaches, and I'm trying, and I'm an adult. So all I'm trying to say is it doesn't really matter how we do it at this point, but the more repetition and the more we do it, the stronger this skill is going to be for our kids. So some of the questions on these pages are pretty straightforward. Some of them are still single digit and single digit, which is great. And like I said, some of our kids just have a really great number sense, and they're going to be able to do this no problem, which is great. Some of us might need a little bit more help. So if you aren't super familiar with number lines, I'm just looking to see if any of these pages have a number line on them. This one here has a number line at the top. That's this guy there. But I'm going to draw one out for you too, just so that you can kind of see how we do things in class. So one thing that I learned from Mrs. Lorway is that when you draw a number line, you should always have arrows at both ends of it. It just helps with number placement along the line. That is the least straight line I've ever drawn in my life. So we do pick a spot and put our 0 on it. I know you guys can't really see this. I'm going to try and... All right, so we put our 0, and we're going to make this number line go up to 20, okay? Now, I highly, highly suggest making your number line with your grade 2 student, and this is a really great opportunity to talk about that number recognition and the basic number foundation. So rather than you just filling in every single number from 0 to 20, it's a good way to check on their number understanding. So one thing that we do in grade 2 is I say, okay, if I've got 0 down at this end and 20 down at this end, with your finger, show me where we're going to put 10. And this is really interesting to see what kids do. Some of them will say 10 is way over here. Some of them will say it's way over here. Of course, we're looking for it to be somewhere in the middle. And again, parents, don't worry about getting out a ruler and making sure that it's perfect. We just want to know that they know where the 10 goes. So going along with that, we can also then use this as an opportunity for other questions. So things like, why did you put your 10 there? And the answers that we're looking for are, well, because I know that 10 is in the middle of 0 and 20, or I know that 10 is halfway between 0 and 20. Those are perfectly acceptable answers. Your child might need a little bit of guidance to use the proper terminology, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. Going along with making this into more of a learning opportunity, I would then also say, now show me where I would put 5. And this reinforces some of the skip counting by 5 that we've done. So of course we're looking for it to be somewhere around here. And I would do the same thing with a 15. Okay, so let's put those numbers in as well. So we've got 5 and we've got 15. And eventually we are going to have all the numbers from 0 to 20 because we are using this as a subtraction tool. I'm just trying to show you a way to integrate a little bit of additional learning and taking something as simple as drawing a number line and turning it into a teaching moment, okay? So continuing on, I would say something like, all right, now let's put in our 3. Should our 3 be closer to our 0 or our 5? And looking for them to tell us that it would be closer to 5, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead here and fill in our numbers. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now, when we use number lines, it's important. 18, oh, I almost ran out of room. It's important, obviously, that we get all of our numbers on there. I ran out of a little bit of room at the end, but the basic premise is here. And we are going to use this number line to help our students with their subtraction. So if we take a look at one of our first page here, the first expression is 13 minus 6. So the way that I use number lines is I tell students, okay, what's our first number? And they'll say 13. And again, reinforcing that concept that when you're subtracting, the biggest number is our first number that we work with. So we always start with a bigger number and take away the smaller number, okay? So I would say put your finger on the 13. I'm gonna use the marker just for the interest of the video. We're gonna circle our 13 there. And we are taking away 6, which means we need to do 6 hops. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put another dot. And of course, our answer is 7. All right. Using this opportunity as well, we can practice writing down expressions and turning them into equations. So on our worksheet, it is written vertically. I want to make sure I get my numbers right. So just reinforcing to our student that our answer goes underneath the line and that the line is the same thing as an equal sign. Okay? You can also encourage, and I'm encouraging you guys, grade 2s, to rewrite it horizontally if you have a scrap piece of paper. So knowing that written vertically is the exact same thing as being written horizontally. Okay? So that is our number line. I hope that made some sense to you. Next, we're going to use counters. So I found a tin of counters that my child stole from the classroom, borrowed, I guess. This would be better than using chocolate-covered raisins like last time. So let's work with the same expression that we had. We had 13 take away 6, or 13 minus 6. So the first thing that we can do is line up or gather 13 different counters. This is a really great way to, again, teach it into a teachable moment, using that subitizing, which is recognizing numbers at a glance. So for example, I just pulled out a handful of 5. I know it's 5 because I see 3 and 2. All right, so now one more is 6. Then we can even integrate some skip counting. So 8, 10, 12. I have 12. I'm looking for 13, so I know I must need one more. So here I've got 13 different counters. It's not a bad idea to line them up in a way to make it a little bit easier to see how many you have, okay? And I do recommend if you have a bunch of the same thing, it is a little bit easier because this is a little bit overstimulating for me and as well as for some kids to see all these different kinds of shapes. But regardless, you got to use what you have at your disposal. So we have 13 here, and I know that I'm going to be taking away 6. So again, turning this into a way to practice our subitizing, I look and I see 3 and 3, so I'm just going to take away those 6, okay? For students that are beginning at subtracting, maybe having a little bit of trouble with this, even for our students who have a really good handle on it, that actual tangible like feeling of taking away those counters is huge. It's that mind-body connection. It's especially for our kinesthetic learners, it's super, super, super important. So I definitely encourage you to pull out some counters and just get busy and practicing with them. So again, we had 13 lined up. I took away 6. Now I take a look at what I have left, and even, I lost a bear. Even moving them completely off of your surface here, I take a look here. All of our students are really good at 7 because we spent months talking about 7. What do we have left? We have 7. I would like to try and discourage for what you have left counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd like you to try and practice and encourage that subitizing, so looking at it and saying I have 7. It's very habitual as adults for us to say, you're right, you do have 7, now let's count them to make sure. And that takes away the trust of the number, okay? So it's kind of like if I put up this and a student says I have 5, would I necessarily say, well, let's count them to make sure? Well, no, because we know that everybody, for the most part, has 5 fingers on their hand, okay? So learning to trust our numbers and trust our instincts is really good. It's not saying we shouldn't check our work to make sure that we're correct. It's more just saying that, okay, well, how do you know that there's 7? Oh, well, I see 3 and 4, and I know that 3 and 4 is 7, or I see 6 and 1, or I see 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. All of these are different ways that we talked about 7 in the classroom, and reinforcing that will really help your student, okay? So that is our subtraction lesson for today. I hope that you got something from it. If you have any questions, please text me or email me, give me a call. I'm also happy to go through some of this one-on-one with your student over FaceTime or whatever, if that is something that you think would benefit them. All right, so I'll be posting this up and you guys have all week to work on it. So have fun and good luck. Thanks.